Why did Eric Leeds leave Prince's band? Let's discuss. Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. I have a long-going series that we've been doing here on Prince's Friend, which is the Why Did I Leave Prince's Band kind of videos. Normally, I take weeks to research those videos. This time, since I had the opportunity to interview Eric Leeds, I thought I'd just go ahead and ask him. Before we jump into his answer, don't forget to hit like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification so you make sure you're always up to date on the latest Prince's Friend video. So let's get into that. So today we're here with longtime horn player for Prince, Eric Leeds. Thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Yep.
I guess the main question here is, obviously you played heavily with Prince in the 80s, and you did come back and you did some stuff in the mid-90s. You did some stuff in the late 90s. You even came back and did some stuff, like, not many people know this, but You're on News, his jazz album that he did in the 2000s.
Yeah.
To ask you the question of, why you left Prince's camp or whatever is kind of a weird one, because you kind of were almost just kind of this thing that could always show up at any moment, know? But, there obviously had to be something where you were no longer like part of the band. So can you tell us about that interaction and how that happened?
Well, really, it's real simple. Our contract expired.
Okay.
I don't know about how he handled the business side or dealings with band members years later. But when I came in with Prince's band and began first with the family, but when then he asked me to then just join his band, what some people call the expanded revolution, I used to refer to as the counter revolution. And we started rehearsals in January of 1986 for what became the hit and run gigs, the parade gigs, whatever. Prince was unusual in that at that time he had extended contractual relationships with the musicians in his band. Usually even a pop superstar like a Michael Jackson or someone that might put a band together, they put a band together for a tour.
Right.
And then usually at the end of that tour, then they might they get paid a set salary or negotiate a salary for their work on a tour. They might be given a retainer if there was like time off, which the artist would generally do just to be sure that that musician is going to be available when they need them back.
Right.
Prince didn't do that. Prince actually at that time had everybody in the band signed to very defined contracts.
Okay.
And when I came into the band, I think the former members of the Revolution, Bobby and Matt Fink and Mark Brown and Wendy and Lisa, their contracts were coming up for renewal. So with the new members coming in, myself, Alana Bliss, Matt Blisson on trumpet, Miko Weaver on guitar, Jerome, Wally Safford and Greg Brooks, the dancers, they were coming in. We were all now tendered employment contracts. The contract was for a term of 3 years. So it was gonna come into effect in March or April of '86, expire in April of '89. So, I still have the agreement in the file. It was like a 20-page agreement. The basic pay structure is on-road salary and off-road salary. We always got paid more on road when we were off the road,
which makes sense.
Well, I always thought it should be the other way because the real work was off-road. Once we were on the road, we knew the show would just go and play the gig. The real work was the rehearsals.
I guess I could see that too, because Prince would put his bands through the paces. Yep.
Oh yeah. But generally speaking, the way it's done is, the norm is you get more when you're on the road and off. So we all knew that was the term of the employment. Now, obviously, the way the contracts are worded is that he has the right to terminate the contract on us at any time he feels like it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now, theoretically, he could insist any of us to serve out the full term of the contract. But if I were to have come to Prince after a year and said, Prince, I'm done with you, I want out, he wasn't going to keep me around.
Right.
Because he doesn't want people there that don't want to be there.
Which makes sense as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. By the time, so that was 86. We did the Sign of the Times tour in 87. 88 was basically the Lovesexy
tour. Yeah.
U.S. portion of that tour ended, I think, in early December of '88, and we realized that we were going to have the rest of the year off. We were going to go to Japan in, I think, February of '89, play
Mm-hmm.
a week and a half, and that was it. That was going to be the last gigs of that tour, of that show, and the band's contracts were going to expire right after that. And by then we all realized that I think Prince had come to a determination that it was no longer of any benefit or reason for him to keep a band on payroll year round any longer.
Okay.
Because he was our understanding that once that tour was over, that he had no immediate plans to go back on the road for the remainder of that year. So
Oh,
basically,
okay.
and he didn't reform a new band until late that year, early the next year.
Yeah.
Now I don't think any of us had any expectation that, oh, he'll come back and ask us to come back out with him when he puts a new band together. None of us even really thinking about it. I said, okay, we're done. Now, my position, of course, was a little bit different because I was working on Madhouse still. So
Right.
I was still around working on my own thing. When he did reform and put a new band together in when he was going to go back on the road in 1990, I
I
guess
think it
it
was
was.
90. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that's the first band that he was starting to refer to as New Power Generation.
Yeah.
Michael Bland, I think, was coming in new at that point.
Exactly. Yep.
Prince had kind of put it out there with not directly to me, but there was an understanding, I think, that if I had shown a great interest in wanting to go back out with him, that's perhaps something that he would have considered. Although much of the new music that he was doing, since I was busy doing my own thing, I was still working with him in the studio a lot,
Yeah.
but there was no really expectation or no definitive decision that he was looking to use horns in the next band. And to be absolutely honest, if he had asked me, I would have turned him down anyway. First of all, I was working on my own stuff, and that's really
Exactly. Yeah.
that's all I was really interested in doing. And as far as being a member of his band full time, I had gotten everything out of that I was going to get out of that experience. So basically, music, artistic exception was like, man, that was a fun 3 years. It was a perfect time
Right.
for me to do that. And now that I've done that, I'm looking on to the next. As the years went by, occasionally sometimes he would call me and said, hey, I'm doing a club gig. You come on and just hang with us and come on stage and just play some solos or whatever.
Very cool.
And if I wasn't busy or felt like it, I'd say, okay, cool. But there are some times when I'd say, Prince, I'm tied up this way. I can't do it this weekend. I said, okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, but that's cool though. I mean, because I've done some of these segments that did not end so nicely, and it's cool that you guys still had a working relationship. Like, come and hang out and let's play, and that's really cool. It didn't end on a bad note, so I like that.
I mean, down the road there were some disagreements on some things, and we just kind of went our own way. But neither one of us, there was really nothing left for me to do after a period of time.
Yeah.
And then in early 2002, when, like I said, when Maceo was in his band, he asked me to come out on a couple of occasions to just, play with the band. And I did. Just a handful of gigs in Europe, a handful of gigs in Japan. When the following year, he was getting ready to reform the band again and bring in some new members. I think this is the tour that was called the Musicology Tour.
That would be 2004-ish?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah. He asked me to come back with him full time then. And I said no. I told him, if you got a gig now and then that I can come out and do and play and have some fun with, fine. But I said, Prince, I'm not interested I'm not interested in doing the heavy lifting involved in being a full-time member anymore.
Right.
And basically, we never saw each other again after that.
Okay.
So we just kind of went our own way after that. I saw him once again between then and before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it was just basically been there, done that. So
yeah.
What
I want to do say though is that I agree with you that I think that those 3 years, I think that those were kind of like the perfect 3 years for you in your career and what you were able to what it was able to do for you. Like, it's amazing. For me as just a listener, and, you know, and a friend, you know, for me, I really feel like you did cement yourself as a part of Prince's legacy,
Well, I
which
appreciate
is,
that.
yeah, which is why when you get comments in comment sections, you know, they're like, oh my God, is that Eric Leeds? It's because, like, I think that you really did bring something super special to Prince, and you added it to Prince's sound, and it became kind of your signature sound. Even though he got Maceo on there and he got all these other people, they very much sounded like them.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Prince never had anything that sounded like you ever again.
Well, obviously, it was a combination of being in the right place at the right time, but already having a sound and a style of like I said, I'd been playing professionally in that kind of music for 10, 15 years before I even got hooked up with Prince. So being able to have the experiences that I do, him being so open to what it is at that point that I was able to bring in. So that was very, very fortunate that he enjoyed the way I play. I was very fortunate that the guy who was my boss ended up being one of my biggest fans.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly, you know, because, and if somebody of Prince's caliber as a musician says that to you, then that's something that you always remember. As I say, I've never been a huge fan of Prince's music, but I take a back seat to nobody in my appreciation, admiration, and understanding of the remarkable musician that he is. Being a part of Prince's process was so fascinating to me. Prince didn't pay me to like his music. He paid me to play it.
Right.
To be absolutely honest, some of the people that worked with him over the years that might have had the most difficult relationships with him were the ones that were like, this is their hero, because it ain't easy working for your hero. You know, that can sometimes make the relationship more difficult. And Prince is not stupid. He understands where everybody's head is at. And sometimes Prince was, unfortunately, you know, Prince's personality was somebody that he took advantage of whatever there was to take advantage of. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in not so good a way. You know, so it was somewhat of a benefit of mine that he understood that in any given situation, I had his back, because that was my job. But on the other hand, if I was going to have his back, there had to be an expectation that he had mine.
Right.
And boy, did he. There's a lot of stuff that I could say about Prince that ain't cool. Everybody that ever worked for him can say.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not what, you know, at the end of the day, pretty much for me, all of the dumb shit was just that dumb shit. You know, that doesn't last. So I can say, yeah, on this given day, he was a real asshole.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to be that person on that day. But, you know, that was 30 years ago, man. At the end of the day, what do I have to say about this? And what he did for me, that's what's significant for me. All the rest of it is just Tweedledum, Tweedledee. My relationship with him was to a point where he could rely on me to do things he could. But because I didn't have that emotional stake in his music, there was still a detachment.
Yes.
That, you know, made the relationship much more definable. Prince realized, okay, this is what Eric does, and I don't need him to do anything else than what he's doing. And I looked at it and said, this is what I do for you, and this is all I'm going to do for you.
So I hope you found that as fascinating as I did. I think his answer was great, and I think it gives us a glimpse into the relationship that Prince and Eric had. If you want to make sure that you check out our next video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Follow us on social media. It's at Prince's Friend YT on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/princessfriend. We have a Patreon drive going right now where we're hoping we'll be able to hit 70 patrons before the end of April. If we do, I'm going to give stickers to everybody, and it's going to be amazing. And also, our patrons end up on the Wall of Gratitude. I'm sure you can see your name on there right now. Otherwise, may you live to see the dawn. See you in the next video.